Hi, everyone. Welcome back to How We Heal with Dr. Maria. I'm super happy and excited, tickled to have my next guest on with me. This is a special show. This is episode 10. Woohoo! So I wanted to make it special with my friend, and I'm going to introduce her in a second, but it's like I wanted to also share with you guys, if you didn't know this thing about me that's sort of different, is I'm an identical twin. And hopefully maybe I could throw up a picture of Josie in the editing or something. But if you didn't know that about me, it's sort of been an adventure and a journey and an exciting thing from the time we were little to now. So today we are going to talk about the special relationship between twins. We are going to talk about definitely my friend Tasha here is going to share with us some of the things that she's doing in her life on her twin journey. And I can't wait to introduce to you Tasha Cram, the CEO of Twinful. She's an author. She's my friend. She's an amazing collaborator for people. Like, she's doing so much for humanity right now on helping people heal on their healing journey. So I want to say thank you so much, Tasha, for coming and hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you inviting me. Super fun.
Yes. So, okay. I know that singletons are different than multiples, okay, in different ways. And one of the reasons why I know that is because I'm a multiple and I've been around singletons a lot of my life, especially in my family with another sibling, as you have. And so I know that in general, sometimes people may not get or understand right away until they've had interactions with multiples, that connection that twins have or multiple siblings have. What do you think about that?
So I want to share that it is absolutely a very unique experience, and what they have done for studies in regards to multiples and their experience in gestation is that right from the very beginning, our brains and our bodies are, as we are being created, we are being wired in such a way at the same time within that womb experience. So when parents experience brand new twins coming onto this plane, they see this unique bond between them. And of course, it's because they shared their womb. But what has ultimately been discovered is that our brains are wired very uniquely, that we are very proficient at telepathic communication, and that we are able to synchronize our biorhythms. And what I mean by that is we're very proficient at, when we get into a space with another physical body, that we can regulate that other person's biorhythms by being together. When we find that we are in the company of another twin, it is very, very fast and a very unique experience.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of twins don't realize that they are actually capable of doing it with all twins. So part of my story in self-discovery, and you being, of course, a huge part of it, is that my twin actually passed 19 days before we turned 4. So I started a very unique journey in that I came into this world with another human being, but that her physical body left during our childhood. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really fully understand how unique my physical body was when I went through my youth and up into my adulthood, until, Dr. Maria, I met you.
Well, we met each other at a business like networking group first. So I don't know if it started then for you. I didn't know you were a twin. You didn't. I might have mentioned it in the intro. I don't remember.
Did not know in the beginning at all. Did not know,
Okay.
and it was quite a while. It took several months for all of that to ultimately come out. But I do recall being surprised at how in tune you were with me and how easy it was for you to finish my sentences. And our biorhythms would synchronize. And every time I left your office, I felt so much better. And it wasn't just because of the adjustments, it was just being in your presence created a twinship, a twin dynamic. And again, at the time, I wasn't at all conscious of it. This was, a long time ago, right? What, almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago that we initially met. And so it was a very, very long time ago. And it was well before I started my discovery of twinships, the power of twins, the gestation experience for twins, what it is that happens when we're going through gestation. All those studies came for me years later. But then once I educated myself about how unique our twin experience is, it all of a sudden made sense to me why you and I had such a unique dynamic and why it's so powerful.
Yeah, I also want to add too that I'm an identical twin, and I actually don't think that it stops there. I think that what you're talking about is for any multiples, whether they're
Correct.
fraternal or,
Correct. In fact,
3, 4, 5.
if you go into recent studies of multiples, they find that literally the only difference between the identical and the fraternal twins is that DNA component that they came from the same egg.
The
But when it
same.
comes to the egg,
Mhm.
that a single egg split versus having two eggs. So there is that. However, as they've done more and more studies of identical twins, they have found that they still have unique fingerprints,
Mhm.
they have unique dental records, and they can have different vision experiences. And so even identical twins have slight differences. But what they found is the same in all multiples is that they are proficient at synchronizing biorhythms and that they can synchronize their brain waves, which is why telepathic communication is so prevalent in our community. For all multiples have brains that were wired, originally formed in a shared space with another brain being wired at the same time. And because we were in such close proximity, and as we bump up against each other, right? Because it's a tight space, it's a small space.
Yeah.
Our physicality, our neurons, how our neurons are wired, and how the neurology of our body and the biorhythms of the rest of how the body functions literally is in synchronization with this other human being that's being created at the same time. They have been fascinated at how easy it is for fraternal twins to communicate telepathically, that it's just as easy as identical twins.
Mhm.
And so it's been fascinating for me to read the studies and to learn more about us, and then ultimately experience in my Twinful journey that I'm on now, because I'm very involved with the multiple community, especially multiples who've lost their sibling.
Yeah. So for us, we were in the same amniotic sac. So I don't know if that's the same for all multiples or if it's just for identicals. You would know maybe more on
It's just
that.
for identicals.
Okay.
Yeah. So fraternals typically do not have the same amniotic sac.
So
Correct.
we were competing for food too,
Mhm,
probably,
mhm,
and other nourishment. But still, again, there's that same push and pull, that same input and
mhm,
output from the brain that you're talking about, the pushing up against each other, and one moves
mhm,
so the other one moves back, and
mhm.
you
And please
hear.
remember that through the umbilical cord, even there's two separate umbilical cords, but that blood flow is through mom and both babies. So whether you're identical or fraternal, you're all still sharing the same blood. And that's huge. That is
Yes.
huge in the creation of those bodies and how impactful that is. And now they've discovered that moms have cells of their children that they've carried, even children that didn't make it all the way through gestation, that you
Yes.
literally carry a portion of that child in your body, which
Mhm.
is why moms, so this whole concept of intuition and telepathic communication, people talk about a mom's intuition. Why does a mom have a level of intuition with their child that a dad doesn't have? It's because they're literally sharing the same body. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why. And so they're actually finding the science behind it and why it's so powerful. So now you multiply that experience with multiple babies,
Mhm.
and it just creates such a magical experience. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think it's powerful as a humanity. When we were born, we were one in 1,000 births. Now with IVF, they're 1 in
Mhm.
100
Yeah.
births. This world is being filled with multiples, and these multiples are coming to the planet with this consciousness and awareness, this ability that so many of the singletons in generations past didn't have. Between telepathic communication and biorhythmically syncing with each other, we have an opportunity to have a very powerful, positive influence on the planet because of that superpower. And that's what Twinful is all about.
Yeah, the original cloning, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
it's been really special. It's been such a special relationship with my twin. It- One of the top 10 questions has always been since we were little, oh, is it true? Can you really feel her pain? And
Mhm.
I would say when I was little, I didn't really understand what that meant. Now that I'm older, I can for sure say yes, that is absolutely true. And it's not just physical pain, it's the emotional pain. And what I'm hearing from you is that you can probably feel that from other twins.
I can, and absolutely through this most recent season in my life, I have discovered that even singletons I can ultimately synchronize with singletons in a way that is unexpected for them. Part of it is because my twin has passed, I am open to interacting with certainly other multiples, which it comes very naturally. But I find that because that synchronization is so easy for me, that even with singletons, and you've witnessed it with my child, now some of it is because she's my daughter and we shared my vessel for a season. But even with my husband and some of my clients, they like freak out a minute because they realize that I'm completely in tune with them and can pick up immediately what's happening with them emotionally, what's happening, I can tune into things much quicker than singletons can, and it shocks them, it surprises them. And I literally say to my singletons, welcome to being a twin. This is what it's been like my whole life. And
Totally.
like, oh, this is what it's like. And it's fun to give them a peek into the dynamic that you've had your entire lifetime.
It is so fun. And my patients, I think, sort of feel the same way at times when they're like, whoa, how did you know that?
Mhm.
Whoa, and it's really a gift. It is such a gift. So if there are any parents watching this that have twins or multiples, man, start developing some of those gifts now, because it is just going to get better and better, as they get
Yes.
older and they get to practice. One of the reasons why I had you on the show is not only do I, it's a special episode 10, but I also want anyone that's watching to know about what you're doing, because I think it's super important that Twinful, this movement that you're creating,
Mm.
this being alive as a twin who has lost her twin, and coming from, the loss to growing and finding ways to heal through that, I think is important for so many people. Tell us about Twinful.
Absolutely. So I spent 36 years of my life after my twin passed not processing my grief, nor did I give myself permission to educate myself about what it means to be a twin. So when your twin is alive, it's about having a twin. So the uniqueness is this duality in identity, and it's I have a twin, I have a twin, I have a twin, I have a twin. There's less focus of actually being. What does it mean to be a twin? There's a whole nother level of consciousness that is experienced when you focus on the superpower that you have because you had a shared gestation. So when I turned 40, I went through this massive medical experience. I had 7 tumors in my abdomen. Later discovered it was neurofibroma, which was not, thankfully, cancer, but it significantly influenced my experience as a human. And when those masses were removed, it created this dynamic in my body where all of a sudden I had this urgency to educate myself about my twinship, to deal with the complicated grief, the identity crisis, the survivor's guilt, and all of the complexities around that. And then to ultimately go, okay, so what exactly does it mean I'm still here?
Yeah.
Yay me. And I had spent all my life up until that point just waiting, in all truth, just basically waiting to die. I was looking forward to being reunited with my twin. And that was a huge focus that I had for a lot of my adult experience. And so when all of a sudden I went through this physical challenge and realized, hang on, we still have this physical body. I adopted the philosophy, which was instilled in me by my mom, that we were 2 souls in heaven before we came into her belly. And as I was a little girl, this is how she explained it to me, that we were 2 souls that came into her belly and we both got our own little bodies. And then we came out and we're still 2 souls with our own little bodies. And then my twin lost her body. She no longer has her body, but we're still 2 souls. And that bond that was created before we went into gestation, during gestation, and then having a few years together was our soul bond. And that the physical piece of it was a small part of it, but the bigger part was the eternal bond. My mom was with me after my major surgery. She was in the hospital room as I went through 3 days of recovery before they let me go. She had some really serious conversations with me about 2 souls, 1 body. And that I have an opportunity, since I survived this experience and that I was clearly going to live on, that it was my responsibility to figure out what my divine purpose was. Why am I still here? And that it wasn't appropriate for me any longer to allow my grief to hold me back. So I took that conversation very seriously, and I began a daily spiritual practice. And in that daily spiritual practice, I ultimately learned how to quiet my thoughts so I could hear the whisper of my twin soul. And so ever since that process started, I knew that I was going to have an influence in our multiple community. I didn't know what it was going to be. I just knew that somehow it was going to happen. I didn't know what. And I just continued this daily spiritual practice. I studied complicated grief. I studied the identity piece for us as twins. And why is it so much more complicated for us than it is any other grief? And there's a handful of books. There's like 5 books on the planet about twin loss. And so I got my hands on those books and I just started educating myself about the uniqueness of us. And what I found was that there wasn't a very strong or proven toolkit to help us deal with that grief. And so I made it my mission. I wanted to figure out what it
Tasha. You probably created your own.
I wanted to figure out what was it in that handful of years after my medical, what did I figure out? What did I learn in that time that got me to a place where I could be twinful? In the twin loss community, there's an organization called Twinless Twins Support Group International, and they're incredible. There are literally thousands of twinless twins all over the planet that are a part of that organization. They have a massive Facebook group, over 5,000 in the group. But I struggled with the twinless word. And I decided, as I started educating myself about being a twin, I'm less a twin in the sense that my twin's body's no longer here. But I wanted to be twinful. I wanted to, and full of life, full of power, full of uniqueness, full of synergy and telepathic communication. I wanted to really embrace the twin powers that are still embodied within this physical presence that shared a womb. So in reclaiming that, I created Twinful. It actually came to me as a vision from a dream that I had. And I truly believe that my twin gave me that vision. And I sketched out this image of my logo, Twinful, and sent it off to a graphic designer. And that's what we now have as Twinful. And through that process, I got involved with the twin loss community, and I started some projects to just increase awareness. We have a Journey of 1,000 Healing Hugs where I'm traveling all over the country and hopefully the world. I've been invited to both Australia and England and Canada. That's 3 places, not 2. Anyways, I've been invited to these other countries to go hug twins that have lost their twins, which is incredible.
Mhm.
We also have tied over 500 blankets. They've been distributed into 17 different countries for the Tie Blanket Project. And through that, I was able to create what I call a twin unity. It's like a community, but it's a twin unity. And I realized that the source of evolution in my consciousness and awareness was something that they needed desperately. So I have since created a course called the G3 cycle, which is grief, growth, gratitude, and acknowledge it's a cycle. It is a free course that's on twinful.com and is now a good portion of my book that is about to be published on August 22nd, which is titled Turning Twin Loss into Living Twinfully. So everything that I've learned in the last decade, all of the things that I've studied about twinship and our uniqueness, and what I ultimately learned through actually processing my grief is in that course. And how I came to that knowledge is the part of the book that leads to that content. And so, yeah, so that's me. That's where I'm at. That's Twinful. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, I love it. I did want to remind people that, like with the twinless communities that you found out there, that it's not just for people. To me, you can lose a twin in the womb. You can lose a twin that's already been born. You guys were 4 years old. You can lose a twin at any age. So I want the people that to feel included, you know, in the Twinful, in the your community, that
Twin
even
unity.
if, twin unity, that if they lost a twin or a multiple in the womb, I want them to feel included as well, because there's still a relationship there. And if if you're having feelings of loss or grief or something's missing and you just don't know what that is, you know, maybe it's because you're still trying to put a handle on the loss from the womb. So do you have
Absolutely.
anyone in your twin unity?
Absolutely. In fact, the Twinless Twin Support Group International is all inclusive, and we have an entire group called the Womb Loss Twins. We have found through science, again, studies of womb loss twins, that their neural pathways and ability to biorhythmly sync is absolutely the same as any other multiple, whether you make it to full gestation or not, whether you make it to birth or not. So you are correct. It does not matter when you lost your twin, even if they were only with you for the first 12 weeks of your gestation. That is when the foundation of your brain and your body is formed. So where we've been able to bridge the gap in consciousness around the twin experience, again, is this 2 souls, 2 bodies. No matter when that body is no longer, because in the way the world is right now, none of our bodies are meant to be permanent. They're all temporary. But the one component of our existence that is eternal, the only piece that comes from our creator, strictly our creator, because our bodies are the unions of our parents and God's gift of saying, yes, I got souls for those bodies, right? So even the womb loss twins, I encourage them, just as my mom encouraged me, to hearken back to that original commitment before you had your physicality, and recognizing that there's an eternal bond, so that we can experience that bond with that soul eternally. We will for all time. But then focusing on the fact that you have a body that shared a womb, and you have a power within you that you get to reignite or ignite. For example, if some are not even consciously aware as a womb loss twin, they feel so unique and unusual in the world, and suddenly they hear this concept and they're like, oh, now it makes sense. Because they'll walk into a room and they can pick up on the vibes, and they're overwhelmed by other people's emotions and they don't understand why they're so sensitive.
Yeah.
Or they can hear people's thoughts and they don't understand why, but that's why. And all of a sudden they have this aha moment. And it's not because I had a twin, it's because I am a twin.
Yes.
Oh, Okay, now it all makes sense. Because you think, well, because my twin died, I'm not a twin anymore. No, that's not the way it works. What makes you a twin is the fact that you shared a womb.
Mhm.
Not that the other one is still alive. That's not what makes you a twin. What makes you a twin is that your body,
Mhm.
your brain was formatted with another human being.
Mhm.
That's what makes you a twin. So let's embrace that. Let's embrace the fact that there's an eternal connection in our spiritual realm that keeps us bonded with that soul that we shared the womb with there momentarily, or all the way through gestation into adulthood. Everybody's story is different, right?
Mhm.
Let's embrace that. And then let's focus on that superpower that we bring to the planet as a twin unity. And suddenly we're not so overwhelmed with the loss and the grief,
Mhm.
because we're able to focus on the growth is expanding our awareness about the uniqueness of being a twin. And we can find ourselves in a space of being grateful that we have this superpower that singletons don't have, and that we can leverage that superpower to make the world a better place.
Let's talk a little bit more about the healing, the actual step by step. Sometimes it's a breath by breath thing.
Mhm.
You talked about your mom, how she was, a huge impact on your healing, and she really kind of was like, "Girl, you have an opportunity."
Get it
You
together.
yeah, which to me is what moms are for. But also your first lost twin that you ever met, what did that feel like? Because you met me and I still had a twin, and I know there were times where I think maybe you felt
Jealous.
irritated. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it
jealous.
was extremely frustrating. I
I'm
was
only saying
extremely
that because
I
you've shared that with me. So yeah.
absolutely. No, I mean,
Mhm.
I was jealous. Absolutely. And I
Mhm.
remember calling you on your birthday multiple years in a row and saying, "Girl, you better call your twin." Like, you better be grateful she's still alive. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a terrible space to come from at the time, but I still hadn't processed my grief. I was still struggling with survivor's guilt,
Mhm.
which is very, very common in our twin unity. So what ultimately happened is I learned about our brain and how grief impacts our brain,
Mhm.
and that we have three layers of our brain, and that our animalistic, our layer one, which controls our breathing, all the things we don't think about, our blinking, all of that. That when we lose our twin, or any loss, what I ultimately learned, because my mom has also since passed,
Mhm.
is that it's through any grief, we do drop down into this lower brain. And in the first few months, and sometimes couple years, depending upon the individual, it's all we can do to get out of bed. We don't remember conversations. We
Yeah.
don't remember what we did, because we're
Yeah.
literally functioning in that layer one of our
Reptilian. Yeah.
brain. Very reptilian. Yeah. Very animalistic.
Yeah.
Mhm. Layer two is where all of our emotions and our hormones, all the chemical stuff gets released. And how when we're functioning from that section of our brain, there is not cognitive reasoning. So if you've ever had a conversation and you think back on that conversation and you realize maybe you didn't handle that so well, maybe you're overreacting a little bit. Well, what's happened is you've dropped down into your second layer of your brain, and you're functioning from the chemistry and the emotions of that your body creates through that experience. Our cognitive reasoning is in our third layer of our brain. That's where logic comes in. We can discern the difference between a good decision and a bad decision. And when we're functioning from that layer of our brain, we are able to navigate differently and with an element of awareness. Our cognitive brain is not fully developed until we're in our mid 20s. And so that's why when teenagers, they think that they know everything, and then they get into their late 20s and they realize how much they actually didn't know. It's because those neural pathways had not yet been created in
Yeah.
their cognitive
The
reasoning.
selfish years, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So when we go into a space of grief, and this is why the G3 cycle is so impactful for folks, is that when we're in that grief, we find we take shallower breaths because we're upset and we're crying. Well, our body naturally conserves our oxygen to preserve our existence. So we lose oxygen to our cognitive reasoning. And if we're upset enough, we even lose oxygen to the layer two of our brain so that we literally, again, when they want to like, I can't even think, I don't understand. Yes, guess what? That's normal.
Mhm.
That's normal. That's part of the grief process. It's your physical body's way of protecting you. So over time, where the growth comes in, when we're finally ready to move out of grief and move into growth, we start developing new neural pathways that didn't exist prior to that soul's passing.
Yes.
Whether it's a parent, a sibling, a spouse, whatever, you have neural pathways that generated that relationship with that individual. And when they're no longer here, now you're needing to figure out, okay, now how am I going to navigate? Because you
Mhm.
spent however many years navigating with them in your presence. The more time you spent with that individual, the longer it takes to figure out how to navigate without them. That's why the loss of a parent is much more impactful than the loss of a stranger or like a coworker or someone unexpectedly passes and it's like, oh, wow, bummer. But it's not like when a parent passes. That's why,
Yeah.
because of that connection that we
Yeah,
have
I've
with
seen
them.
that
And
with spouses as well.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. So once we get to a place, that growth piece, it's just like when a brand new baby comes into the world, you kind of fall back to being a brand new baby. And now you're developing new neural pathways. Well, as you start, it's time that time has to pass in order for those neural pathways to be developed. And once they are, you come to a new awareness that you didn't have before their passing. And suddenly there is this space between grief and growth. And it's through the growth that we are able to get a reprieve from the grief. And as we grow, we ultimately gain a perspective about their life before they passed, about our interactions with them, and the things that we're grateful for. So we move into a space of gratitude.
Mhm.
When we function from a space of gratitude, our biochemistry in our body is different than when we're functioning from a place of grief.
Mhm.
Grief is a place of loss. Gratitude is a place of abundance. So why the G3 cycle is so powerful is that once we bring it into a person's consciousness, that it's possible to move from grief to growth, that they have an opportunity to develop a new neural pathway. And through that new neural pathway, they will be able to open the door to things that they can be grateful for. Suddenly, they're no longer completely overwhelmed by grief, which can be paralyzing. It's literally paralyzing. You
Yeah.
can't function,
Yeah.
right? It literally paralyzes us. And that's where the power of my growth journey, my evolution as a soul, why the G3 cycle became so important to me. And it was something that my mom taught me. And she didn't use those words. She didn't necessarily put it in that way. But
Mhm.
the essence of that is what she instilled in me after my surgery. And
Yeah.
that's what I've been implementing for the past 10 years. And it's been transformational for me.
And I feel
Then
like it's for everyone. It can
it
be for
can be.
everyone. Mhm.
It can be. And I didn't know that. Okay, I'll be transparent. I totally thought when I started this whole G3 cycle that it would literally, it's strictly for multiples. What I have since learned, as there have been individuals that have read my manuscript, we're in the publishing process, but I have a whole bunch of folks that have read the manuscript, including the publishers,
Mhm.
just other individuals that are not multiples. They're like, oh my heavens, Tasha, this literally applies to anyone. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. I'm like, oh, okay, yay, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. In the introduction to Lisa, which is my first twin lost twin that I met,
Mhm.
that was when I was finally able to connect the dots that I could not connect with you. I had an experience with you, but I didn't understand it. Once
Mhm.
I met Lisa, all of a sudden there was an awareness of, oh, so this is what it's like to have a twin. Up until I met Lisa, I was working on educating myself about being a twin. So I did it backwards compared to most people because my twin passed so young. I chose to educate myself about what it meant to be a twin. And then I met Lisa, and her twin had only been gone for 5 months. So her powers as a twin were still very, very strong. They had not gone dormant in her at all because her twin had literally just passed. It hadn't even, just passed. It hadn't even been a year.
Mhm.
And when we met, we were only together for 45 minutes. And it was magic for both of us.
Mhm.
It blew us both away. It absolutely blew us both away. And I get goosebumps telling the story. It was incredible. And my life has been completely transformed since then, which is why I started the journey of 1,000 healing hugs. Because there's a whole lot of twin lost twins out there that have no idea how powerful they truly are.
Yeah.
And that the fact that they still have their body, that they are very much still a twin. And as soon as you hug another twin, especially a twin lost twin,
Mhm.
because they don't have that physical body any longer in this realm that they shared the womb with, it is so powerful and so transformational. They need to know. They just need to know. So that's my mission, to hug every twin lost twin on the planet. My goal right now is 1,000, but I'm pretty sure I can hug everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna get way more than 1,000, Tasha.
That's the goal.
I wanted to just go back a little bit because you were so young when Tanya passed. Have you in your community or in the other communities found other young twin lost twins, and how are they being helped? I mean, I've known a few, and I can imagine it's rough. And if they don't know about grief, growth, and gratitude, or if they just don't know, a journey like this, and they could be helped with whatever pain they might be going through. How have you seen younger kids being helped?
There was they feel validated.
Mhm.
They feel validated. And so now, do you mean like as far as if they're still toddlers or
Even
young
7, 8,
children?
9, 10, where they
Certainly.
know they
So
had a
it is
relationship.
absolutely, it's having that conversation with the parents, honestly.
Mhm.
It starts at the parent level and educating them about everything that I just shared,
Mhm.
and then making sure that that gets passed on to them. However, it's important that we recognize and acknowledge the development of a human's brain. My twin passed when we were 4, right before we turned 4. I did not have the cognitive reasoning to understand where she was, what heaven was, that she was never coming back. It was extremely traumatic for me
Mhm.
to go through that. And it wasn't until I was about 10 years old before my brain developed enough for me to be able to recognize or acknowledge that she was never coming back. It took that long. And it was just because my brain wasn't developed enough to be able to process that concept. And it wasn't until my mid-20s before I finally connected the dots that I was literally going to have to live an entire lifetime. Again, I kept thinking that I was going to be called to Jesus because that's how it was presented to me when she was sick,
Mhm.
that she was going home to Jesus. And I'm like, all right, when do I get to go home to Jesus? Let's go, let's go, let's go. So as a little one, I'm like, okay, when's it my turn? We took turns a lot as twins.
Interesting.
We
Mhm.
did everything together. So it was like,
Mhm.
okay, how about now? How about now? How about now? Like it was a trip to me that I actually made it all the way into my adulthood. And I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, like I'm still here. This sucks. Like I really struggled with it.
Mhm.
And in a way that I rarely communicated with people because you didn't even know I was a twin. I wouldn't even give myself permission to acknowledge the fact that I was a multiple.
Well, it hurt
Yeah.
so bad. Why would you go there,
Yeah. So because of that, I have a huge passion for young multiples. I love hanging out with them, and I love spending time with them and pouring into them and
Mhm.
educating the parents and helping them understand what they're going to go through.
I think you've had a
Uh,
few in your group, right?
oh, dozens,
Okay.
dozens, dozens, dozens. Yes, absolutely. Teens, there's teens in our group that I've given them a time blanket and met with them face to face and talked to their moms offline. And how can I help them
Mhm.
process? How can I help the moms process their own grief? Because remember, I'm also a child of a mom that lost a child. I
Yeah.
wasn't just a twin. I also witnessed my mom processing her grief of the loss of a child. So
Mhm.
there's wisdom that can be imparted to them. And how did my mom navigate that? And where and when did she ultimately find a place of grace? And with that grace, could she impart her wisdom to me? Because she was older, obviously. So she developed this grief, growth, gratitude formula through her own processing of her grief, she ultimately imparted that to me and gave me the tools to cope with life. So the goal to impact the parents of the twin lost twin or twinless twin is around that experience that I had for myself, and how can they help them? Let me give you some perspective from the twin's point of view. As the surviving twin, let me give you some tools to help with that. Same with the spouse. How can I help the spouse navigate a relationship with a twin lost twin? Help them understand the dynamics of a multiple and how they can actually become that surrogate twin if they're open to it. And if the twin is willing to create that level of bond with them, we develop surrogacies throughout our life as a twin lost twin. When we allow ourselves to understand the power that we have, we can experience that dynamic with other souls. And that's when the healing really, really begins.
Wow. 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 This is so amazing. How, if I'm somebody that's watching this for the first time, and maybe I know someone, or maybe it's me with a child that's lost, their twin, or I've lost a twin, where does someone start with what you're doing? Should they go to your website? Like, where should they start? I mean, I know the book's not coming out until August, and I know that could be an amazing resource for them, but where's somewhere where they could get some help right away?
Absolutely. Twinless Twin Support Group International has a website called twinlesstwins.org. So on twinlesstwins.org, there is the books that I read when I first decided I wanted to educate myself about this. There's 5 books on that website, and they're all amazing. Twinful.com, they can get the first chapter of my book that is available now.
Okay.
And then they would be notified once it's published. But as far as support, immediate support, if you go to Facebook, you can follow Twinful Twin Tasha, and you can join the private Twinless Twin Support Group International support group on Facebook. They have a community. And like I said, there's over 5,000 of us in there. You will literally, if you are a new lost twin and you go into that group, all of us pour into every addition to that group, because we know how difficult, especially the first year, is. You can receive immediate support. Parents of children of twin lost twins are also welcome in that group. And it's a phenomenal group of people. They have regional meetings. They have an annual conference that's coming up in July, mid-July. And this year it's in Cincinnati, Ohio. So if you go to twinlesstwins.org, you can see about that conference. And if you're like, man, I just want to get around other twins. I want to experience this power that Tasha's talking about. Like, sign me up.
Yeah.
That's an awesome place to really feel the unification of our community, for sure.
And I knew you had some things coming up that sounds super exciting. Are you going to this July one? Okay.
So I'm doing my first cross-country tour for the Journey of 1,000 Healing Hugs. I leave on July 1st, and I'm going from California all the way to Maine.
Wow.
So on my way
Awesome.
out, I am hitting Cincinnati, Ohio for the Twinless conference. And then 3 weeks later, on my way back, I'm hitting the Twins Day Festival for Living Sets of Twins that happens to also be in Ohio. It's in
I've
in
always
Twinsburg,
wanted
Ohio.
to go to that. Yes,
I
we've talked
can't
about
wait.
that
You need to
before.
come. We're going to have a
Yeah.
booth there. We've got Twinful t-shirts. My little hug bug's going to be there. We're dragging her all the way across country. I have a VW bug that I have affectionately labeled Hug Bug. I want to put an end to the slug bug thing and make it a hug bug world. So every time you see a VW bug, you have to hug somebody. Love that. And so, it's very exciting. So it's a little bit of a book promotion tour, but it's mostly to hug twins. It's a hug tour, hugging twins, letting them know about the book. And then we should be back at the Butterfly Ranch, which is a retreat being built for twins by twins, a location kind of like an ashram or something like that. People can come and just be, and knowing that it's being built by twins. Anyways, we'll be back to the Butterfly Ranch mid-August, and then my book launches a week later. It's exciting.
So exciting. Oh my gosh. Well, as we kind of tie things up here, what do you want people to know? What do you want to leave people with, with what you're doing, and just some, I don't know,
So
some
there's one
advice?
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one practice that I have. I call it the 4 deep breaths. And it's a practice that has carried me through my grief experience as a twin lost twin.
Mhm.
My first breath is for me, which is my body, the body that I shared with my twin, the body that was created from the union of my parents, and the vessel that has taken care of my soul this lifetime. My second breath is for myself, which is my brain, the brain that developed in that womb, that holds all of my memories, all of my knowledge, my cognitive reasoning, and helps regulate my body.
Mhm.
My third breath is for I, which is my soul. It is my I am, the
Mhm.
one part of me that comes only from my creator, that is connected eternally, not only to God, but to my twin and my mom, and is, I believe, the most powerful part of me. But my fourth breath, and I actually believe it's the most important breath, is for my twin. Because in reality, we are 2 souls, 1 body. And my breath is what gives our body life.
Mhm.
So when I take that 4th deep breath, I do it for Tanya. And that's what carries me through.
Mhm.
My body is still here for a reason. And I now wholeheartedly believe that, even though I spent literally over 3 decades resisting it,
Mhm.
waiting for my call home, waiting to be next to
And
go to heaven.
yeah, I love that idea of eternal Tanya having her breath as well. And
Yeah,
you guys, a few times in our relationship, me and Tasha, I've accidentally called her Tanya. Like, just that's how I know she's with us too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's very, very much with us. And I love the concept of 2 souls, 1 body. And I love the concept of 4 deep breaths.
Mhm.
I think those are the consciousness, that's the awareness that has carried me through and led me to Twinful,
Mhm.
and helped me discover everything I've shared with you today. And I
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Man, thank you so much. I feel like in just this short conversation, you've helped so many people. If for some reason they gave their power away to something, you've helped them totally get their power back. And I really feel like that's what part of the show is about, teaching people. It's my mission on this planet to help remind people of their innate intelligence. And that means knowing how powerful you are. And whether you're a singleton or a multiple, anyone could be helped by this information. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're very busy with the new book coming out. I can't wait to have you back at some point, because we are definitely going to be talking about that. And thank you so much to you, Tasha, for your service to humanity.
Thank you for hosting me,
Love you,
Twinny.
girl.
I love you. I love you
All right, guys. Thank
so
you.
much.
Until next time, check out How We Heal with Dr. Maria on YouTube. Rumble is the backup. I'm on Instagram as well as Dr. Maria Salas. And until next time, I will see you. Bye, everyone.
Hey.